my brother, man. What's going on?
What's going on, my bro?
My bros, man. Hey, man, what's going on, man? I had so much stuff going on, man. We'll have to chop it up one day about that. But look, I've been listening, watching the news. The first question I want to ask you is the first question I want to ask you is this: what do you think about Mason, Tennessee, and that comptroller trying to take the city back? Now that the Ford plant is about to be built there, and a lot of black folks are going to have jobs. What do you think about that?
Yeah,
I want to know exactly what you think about it.
yeah. You know what? I haven't even kept up with that one, with that story.
Dang.
Yeah, with
Okay,
that
so
story, I
look,
haven't kept
I,
up with.
I'll just give you a brief synopsis. Brief. Okay, in that city, the city has had some corruption with politicians stealing money. All cities do. Well, this city is, I guess, has prime land that Ford is like, hey, we could build a plant there and make some money because it's prime land. So the black folk that's in that part of Tennessee is like, cool, come here. We can use, a plant that'll give us jobs. So Ford is like, all right, cool, we coming there. Well, the state or city comptroller, the people that controls the money and the budget, this white dude stepped in and basically was like, no, you guys don't know how to handle money. It's been too much mishandling of money and stealing. So we're going to take the city back and we're going to declare the city under bankruptcy or something. It basically where they can control the funds and where things are being appropriated, and it won't go to the city, and it won't go to the citizens of that city. And when Ford comes there, those jobs won't necessarily be for the citizens, the black folk in that city. So what do you think? Just off what I just explained, what do you kind of think about that?
It sounds like a recolonization. Sounds
Mm.
like a recolonization. Um, this is their tactics. You know what I'm saying? Like this is something that they've um, white supremacists or the white racism, the white rage. This is something that they've practiced time and time again. Where if they can't have their way, they use their muscle to kind of move things around, pull the resources so that your city or your town would not flourish. You know what I'm saying? And Mississippi, I mean, shoot, I'm really not surprised with that being one of the last states to actually ban slavery, to actually ban Jim Crow.
Tennessee,
Oh, this
Tennessee.
is
It's in
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Okay, Tennessee.
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 Yeah, yeah. It sounded like I said Mississippi though.
Okay.
It's in Mason, Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah. So in it, okay, so again, this is sounding like recolonization, and this is what they do. This is the tactics that they use, brother. Um, I definitely see where they've done this, and even you take a look into our neighborhoods, right? Where they have recolonized our neighborhoods. Well, I would say the neighborhoods we should have made ours. You see where they've recolonized it by pulling the resources when they can't get anything back. They move them. They show their muscle. They move things around to put their people back into place or back into power. You know what I'm saying? Just from the sounds of it, you can't get their way. This is what they do. They pout. This is what you know what I'm saying? They pout, jump up and down about it. And, they say, but give me back my toy. They just take what they believe is theirs, hog it all back to themselves. That's from what I'm hearing from what you said. That's the first thing that comes to my mind is the recolonization, the pulling of resources, or the threatening of pulling, um, giving you a little leeway, but then taking away. Kind of like what they would call an Indian giver in sort of a sense.
That was cold. Okay, so let me ask you another question. What do you think about this transgender man that won that swimming meet? What do you think about that? It was a man who competed with women and he won. And a lot of people are not happy about that. So I wanted you to give me your thoughts on how it's going to affect us as a people, and what is it going to do to the younger generation growing up in the United States of America when you could go into women's sports as a man and be dominant in that sport.
I think what it comes down to, first and foremost, you must know who you are spiritually. Like you must know your spirit man. Like that's what Marcus Garvey, he preached that wholeheartedly. And it doesn't mean necessarily knowing what religion you belong to or what faith you practice, but just knowing who you are spiritually. No man who knows who he is going to transform himself into a female. You know what I'm saying? Going to transform himself into a female, go through that little metamorphosis stage, come out a female and go and compete, in a sport in which he can possibly dominate because of his natural raw talent gender. You know what I'm saying? Like no man with sense, with a natural sense of knowing who he is spiritually is going to participate in that type of activity. You know what I'm saying? So it's all a part of the confusion, but I'm not surprised. See, these folks is confused, bro. Let me put this on vibrate. My fault.
No, you all good. You all
These
good.
folks,
Speak. Could you speak? Could you speak to the confusion part?
yes,
Speak to that part
to
too.
the confusion. You a man who has no interest in women, but you transform yourself into a woman to be attracted or to attract other men or to be attracted to other men, to date other men or marry another man. Or you a woman who don't like men, but you dress and act like a man so you can be with a woman. It's confusion. If you can continue this type of confusion, our youth is going to pick up. And when you have a youth, um, of let's say for example, with black people here in America, if you have a youth that is glued to the TV or they idolize the media, whoever the media puts out or pushes out, they idolize that individual or that group, then you're going to have a youth who grow up trying to be like that group. And it's all a part of that confusion.
Mm.
If I can confuse a group of people on top of confusing them with reparations talk and confusing them with identity crises, with confusing them with education and economics, if I can just confuse them and keep them tongue tied, they'll never experience who they are. They'll never accept who they are because we are constantly looking at images that push us to be something other than black, something other than
Wow.
our
That,
yes. And so when you have these type of things happening, we have to be able to recognize this, point it out, and say that's not all of that. Don't represent black people. This don't. This type of behave. This is a behavior. This doesn't represent us. This is not our culture. This is not our thinking system or our religious system. This is not us. And we have to point them out and say they are not a part of our community of what we're trying to. We have to exile these people and say they're not a part of our community of what we're trying to accomplish because they are a part of causing the confusion and white racism, white rage, white supremacy. They are the masters of confusion, as Neely Fuller and Francis Cress Welsing said. They are the masters of confusion. You know what I'm saying? So if they can continue to push this confusion, our youth, which is the future, will never seek liberation for their people. Instead, we'll be seeking the latest fad. You know what I'm saying? So um, I also think it's a big weak move, but it's also been pre-calculated. When you see movies like
Ooh.
Joanna Man, um, where and like white chicks. I mean, I understand these are but these are black men dressing up as women to I guess display a different type of culture or a different type of wanting or interest, right? So they short-term and long-term effects. There's short-term and long-term effects. The short-term effects is that they've opened up the door for other black men to have that experience, which they already had, but to have that experience worldwide, globally, where black men dressing up as women, and we're gonna make it a comedy. Now, again, before those movies came out, I know you had Jamie Foxx dressing up as a woman, Martin Lawrence dressing up as a woman. You had those individuals, but when you make this into cinema, that's going to make millions of dollars, not just a TV show, but cinema. We got to purchase these things on DVD and or upload or get digital copies. This is what you see. So short-term effect, um, it opens up the doors again. But these people who are these playing these characters, they get their money. They get their moment of fame. They may get awards. Long-term effect, we are experiencing it now, where a man can dress up as a woman, or a man can transform himself into a woman and go and participate in their sport, in a female sport. Like that's the long-term effect. And again, another long-term effect is the confusion of our youth, because black or white, our youth see these sports, and black youth, they highly favor sports, football, basketball, swimming, Olympics, track meets, all of that. They favor sports. When we see this, our youth say, I can do the same thing too. And they start to personalize themselves with it, and personify themselves with that gender that they believe should be right, pushing them to the acceptance of that culture, because along with that transformation comes a culture. That culture is not wanted in the black community. Amongst strong black men, amongst strong black women, that homosexual transgender culture is not wanted. We'll take in. I mean, we'll take in. If you're a homo, you're homosexual, but you're a part of liberation. You can be with us. I mean, you look at Langston Hughes. You look at James Baldwin. I mean, they were homosexuals, but they was about the black liberation. We took them in. They became part of us. They didn't allow their sexuality to take control of the message of liberation and freedom. You know what I'm saying? Langston Hughes compromised a little bit, just a bit, but not too much. But we began to see again these distractions, man. So what comes to my mind, definitely distractions. And another plan to push this gender this gender of the homosexuality world, that's also gonna water down our fight for liberation within reparations in all aspects of life.
That's heavy, brother. That's real heavy. You dropping that? That's heavy right there. Let me ask you another question too. How do you feel right now about our focus? How do you feel about our focus, foundational Black Americans, as our brother Tariq calls us, or Native Blacks, as Dr. Claude Anderson calls us? Because I don't like to use that term African American. The only reason why I don't like to use that term too much, after reading Dr. Claude Anderson's books and kind of doing a little bit of my own studies and research. I feel like calling us native blacks because, you can trace our lineages back hundreds of years. You know what I mean? We're a distinct group of people. We're a special people. How do you feel our focus is now compared to what it was when Obama was in office? How do you feel the focus is now compared to when he was in office? Because remember, when he was in office, we was running through the streets, jumping up and down, feeling like Jesus himself has returned, or Cesare, as I would like to call it. And I felt like we went to sleep. How do you feel our focus is now compared to when Obama was in office?
Yes. I was just about to say, but you said that the first thing that come to my mind is that we fell asleep again. Our focus right now, I honestly think that for the most part, our focus is not so bad. I think just off of the strength of the conversation of reparations is one of the top conversations in almost every family, every household. Rather, you have some blacks who disagree and some who agree. But it is a conversation. When you say reparations, a lot of blacks pretty much know what you mean. It's been a time when you mention reparations and people wouldn't know it's like, what do you mean reparations? They don't know what it is. So I think it's not so bad. I think for the most part, we have that conversation happening. I think our focus with getting things done, with actions, our focus is off. I think that we are using great focus, but we're placing our focus in the wrong direction. I think we're placing our focus in the wrong direction. I think when it comes down to it, our focus should be building a nation, a black nation within a nation. That has been the focus, or I should say, that was the output of our black leaders, of our black elders and black scholars for decades. However, through generation through generation, the ball has been dropped. In some ways, bro, the older generation that came before us, they dropped the ball in a lot of areas. I think they did what they could have done, but they dropped the ball in a lot of areas, and they didn't give us the truth. You still had the scholars, you still had elders, but as far as the political leaders, no way. They've pushed our parents into believing that you have to vote your way to liberation.
Great point. Great point. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's a great point. You know what I mean? I want whoever listens to this on the playback, listen to what this brother just said. They have maneuvered, manipulated, finessed, and tricked the older generation, our parents and grandparents, into voting. But go ahead, continue, my brother.
Yes, they pushed them into that mindset, and through that mindset, we have a different mindset. They have the mindset of Martin Luther King, and it's not necessarily all bad, but they have the mindset of the first phase of Martin Luther King, not the second phase. And when we have the mindset of now, we want action, which is what the Marcus Garveys and the Ella Bakers, like, they were about action. Like, let's go out and do it. The Stokely Carmichaels or Kwame Ture, they were about the action. And so now you have that divide amongst the older generation and our generation, which there shouldn't be a divide, but there is, because they don't agree with our tactics. This is why when we go and we want to fight for this, the HR 40 or just reparations, let's say if it was anything else, we want to fight for it in a certain way. They say, well, y'all kind of going about it the wrong way. You got to vote. We say, okay, well, we want to go out and take it and build our nation. They don't want to give it to us. We're going to take it ourselves. We're going to take it by the hands. And they tell us, that's not the way you get things done. You have to go through this is what they told me. I remember my father told me that, you have to go through Congress. I'm like, what? You have to go through the voting. Like, you have to. That's that. You know what I'm saying? That's the mindset. These people still think that, we're still in civil rights movement mode when we are in Black Nation mode. So it's different. However, because they focus so much on the civil rights movement, they didn't take a look at everything else. They just viewed our liberation from one standpoint, which was the political standpoint. They didn't look at it educationally. This is why a lot of them were for the integration. They didn't take a look at it and see that we would not be taught true form of education. You know what I'm saying? And without education, how can you be economically sound without education? We need a true form of education. But all of that died when they accepted integration. And then they pushed their children to accept it. And now they're pushing their grandchildren, which is us, they're pushing their children to accept it. And now the generation after us now, the teens, or the folks that's in their early 20s, they don't know history, our history, Black history. They don't want to know it. They don't understand the contributions that our people put in towards creating this country. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to know or to understand it. Instead, they would much rather learn and view their life from the perspective of a rapper, a singer, a pop star, a movie character, or a movie personification type of character. They would much rather view them and learn off of that. And so you see the ball drop at each stage. The more technology becomes advanced, the more Black people kind of retract a bit, because the more friendlier the technology becomes, that is kind of putting us a little bit out of jobs. Not all the way, but it's putting us out of the employment option, because now when it comes to building a nation within the nation, we would, obviously the government is going to much rather go and use someone that's going to be, they could pay for like what, $20 a month versus $20 per hour. These are the things we're not too focused on as a whole, as Black people. We have to take the technology that we have and master it for our benefit. But instead, we take our technology or our movement and master it to benefit white people all over again. Slavery all over, sharecropping, all over again. You know what I'm saying? So our focus in that aspect, I definitely believe it's not where it should be. You know what I'm saying? Another thing is too, brother, is along with that, I don't place all the blame on the older generation. But I think even with our generation, now that we have the technology, we have the tools in which we can go back and take a look at what our ancestors did and remaster it. Because that's all the whites do. Thomas Edison looked at Granville T. Woods, looked at Benjamin Banneker, and looked at what they've done. I'm sorry, not Benjamin, Granville T. Woods. Looked at what he did and just copied it. So Granville T. Woods had to take this crab to court, and he actually won. But he had to take him to court for trying to steal his ideas. They're very good at trying to steal our ideas and then call it innovation or creation. We can take that. We can take what Granville T. Woods did, remaster it, because we have a right to do that. That's our ancestor. We have a right to remaster what our ancestors did. They don't. The outside group don't. We can remaster it and use it for our benefits. But we don't. We don't do it. One big reason is we're scared of power. We're scared. We're
Mm.
scared to actually use our power. We walk in authority. As Black folks, we're born with authority. But white supremacy begins to take over once you are born into this world, and you have that white supremacy all around you. You breathe it in. Yeah. I truly believe when the Bible says that we was born in sin, I think it was talking about white supremacy. That's what I believe. We was born in white supremacy. The whole world, the whole planet is. And because they're sinful people, we're born in sin. So I definitely, see it as we have to get out of the mode of when power presents itself, which means moving forward with our nation building. We can't be scared and begin to start rethinking or recalculating what ifs. I remember Keith Murray, he said, if what if was a spliff, we'd be all effed up. We cannot think and dwell on the what ifs. And I think it's a traumatic experience because our ancestors had to go through these what ifs. If you escaped, what if you are caught? Because now they've made these fugitive slave acts. So if we are caught, it ain't gonna be a pretty day for us. We're gonna have trouble. We're gonna be whipped. We're gonna be punished severely. You know what I'm saying? So that creates a certain type of fear. But I think that now, what do we really have to lose? What do we really have to lose? White supremacy is there, but within a couple of years, they'll be out. And then you have the Chinese superiority or the Asian superiority happening. And we'll have to fight up against that. And then within another 300 years after that, we'll have the Spanish, the Latinos. So, the same way that they came into this country during Reconstruction and even before Reconstruction, it's the same way that they are doing it now when it comes down to it, bro. The Chinese came in and we welcomed them, and they copied our ways of doing things as far as like with the train tracks and the steam engine and everything. They took it apart, recreated it, and now made it more advanced. You know what I'm saying? And then you had the Latinos who came in afterwards. They did the same. We welcomed them in. We showed them how to make homes and all like that. And then look at what they are doing now. They're building homes everywhere. I know at least down here in Georgia, they're building homes everywhere. But when you look at just folks building homes, it's them. But who taught them? We did. They just took it, remastered it, took it apart, put it back apart, and said, "This is how you build." Okay, we got it. So you have a couple of things, happening where we have allowed other race groups to come in and take power of what we already have, of what we already should have had and mastered. But so our focus, bro, is, like I said, it's not all the way bad, but it's definitely not all the way good. And I'm not trying to say that to walk a thin line. I think more so I lean towards it being not all the way good. If I had to pick one out of the two, not being all the way good, not being great. We messed up when integration into this planet, as far as from the white supremacist state of mind, because we had to buy into their culture. So that destroyed everything that our ancestors worked and built, worked and bled for. So that's what I would say to that, brother. It's definitely not where I would lean more towards. It's not where it should be. But I love the fact again that we are having these conversations about reparations. In 2012, I've never heard of that. This is when Obama was in office. I didn't hear about it, and this is a black man in office. But
Good point. Good
you,
point.
if you compare it to from Obama to now, um, I mean the same acts are still in place. The same law is still in place, which is a black man has no rules that a white man is bound to respect. It's still in effect. It was in effect when Obama was in office. He did more for the gays. As a matter of fact, he did more for the gays and for spying than he did with us, for us, to us. You know what I'm saying? This man, one of his, I never forget when I know he's left-handed, but he said he uses both. But he signed he signed the orders for us for UFOs to be able to, I guess for us to be able to use, I kind of forgot the name of it, man, but our little I forgot those little remote control cars remote control airplanes you can kind of hoover in the sky with. I can't remember the name at the moment. But we can use these things,
Drones.
the
Drones.
drones, yes. So we're thinking as individuals in this country, like, oh man, we're thinking fun and entertainment. We don't understand that basically that's another tool to continue the spying, but just put it into law now. The spying on who? On us, the black community, using cell phones, using all type of electronic devices. You know what I'm saying? And spying on other countries and just causing devastation and destruction to our communities. Not only that, another one of the first laws he signed definitely was for the gays. You know what I'm saying? And he did that again with his left hand, signed with his left hand. He always signed something with his left hand, if you notice. You know what I'm saying? So this man has caused a lot of devastation for blacks because he never did anything for us when we said, listen, Trayvon Martin has been, I would say, lynched in my eyes. Like, you know what I'm saying? And most people they don't want to really play around with that word, but it was a lynching. It's not lynchings, and not only public displays, they're gruesome displays as well. They're murder. A lynching is a murder from one race to another out of hate. This man did absolutely nothing, but stood up there and cried and said that could have been my son, but he really did nothing. And then you move on to Biden now, and he's just pretty much enforced it. Trump pretty much just gave whites a little bit more heart, but I don't see where Trump was too much of an issue like Biden and Obama was. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying he was any better. Like I said before in another one of your podcasts, choose one of the evils. I mean, both of them are going to kill you. Just one got style and the other one doesn't. You know, so in progress, we haven't moved none at all. But our focus is that we have moved, but we really haven't, bro. So I don't know if that makes sense, but when you take a look at it again from 2008 to 2020, we're still happy with being integrated. Reparations have not been given out. We are still supporting other race groups above our own as a whole. This is just as a whole. We haven't stepped up to grab hold of power and take it by the horns as a whole. And we haven't created a bunch of industries in which we can hire our own people under our own circumstances. We haven't gone anywhere with that. We still don't have our form of education, but we're still programmed to believe that voting is the way. There's no other way except for going through white rage. That's the only way to get things done. That's the way that we believe it to be.
Mm. Do you think? Let me ask you. Hey, that was great. Matter of fact, you touched on everything I was gonna say, but that's okay. I'm glad you was able to do that. Let me ask you a question. Real talk. Okay, we have the funds. All right, or let's say we don't have the funds. Do you think we would have enough intrinsic value, or do we have enough intrinsic value to to want to believe in each other, to work with each other? The only reason why I'm saying this, let me add context to it, my brother. The only reason why I'm saying this is because I know you heard me kind of go on a rant on that on my podcast on on Sunday, and the reason why, not because, and let me clarify too, I'm not tripping about people buying anything from me. I already work at a corporate plantation, so I'm not tripping off that. What I was tripping off of was the 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 intent behind people questioning it. And that's why I'm asking you, do you think we have intrinsic value in each other, work with each other? Because the reason why I'm saying this, because on my podcast that I talked about on Sunday, and I hated to go on that rant because I don't like to do that, but it was so irritating because to hear my people tell me, oh, well, I did my research and it makes me do this and it makes me do that. But if you have some type of illness or a sickness, you'll go to a practicing doctor. They're practicing medicine on you for them to give you some stuff that's going to have 30 different side effects to it. But because they said it's good for you, you're not going to question them. But you have Dr. Sebi on record beating HIV and the government, and you still got people talking about, oh, it's making me do this, or oh, I don't like it's too much mercury in it, or it's this and it's that. Well, it is from the sea. You eat fish, don't you? That's why I was irritated, because I feel like if Dr. Sebi was white, there would be no sea moss. They would have to make fake sea moss because black folk, we spend more money than damn near everybody as far as a group. When white folk that validated, we're gonna buy it up in droves. So if Dr. Sebi was white, I guarantee you there would be no sea moss to purchase. So my question to you is, do you think we have enough intrinsic value in each other to even work with each other and start businesses and hire each other?
Okay, so I think, and I agree. I think that we have the intrinsic value, but you also have some in the bunch that's trying to spoil it. You have some bad apples in the bunch. We have we have been through decades and centuries of maltreatment and distribution. We've been through decades of trauma, physical trauma, emotional, and mental. Like, we've been through so much. We've been retracted from one land and brought over to another land. We have been ripped away from our families, and still is being ripped away from our families with the courts and these children's services. But we still now, currently, knowing and going through all of these things and understanding what our ancestors been through, we still won't band together. We just won't do it. Now, I think there's a couple of reasons why we just won't do it, because that has a lot to do with being to valuing each other. I think first, to have intrinsic value, we have to have value in ourselves. And as Black people as a whole, we don't have value in ourselves. You have individuals who do, you have some groups who do, you have some elders who try to push that mode of having that value. But when it comes down to it, as a whole, we don't have that value in ourselves to where we can put everything else down and just be Black for a day, for one day. We won't do it. Now, it's not impossible for us not to complete this mission and go through with it. But I think it's still going to take a while because we don't value ourselves. We have to, and that's something that's not taught or it's not talked about too much in in the Black community, is that valuing ourselves. I think along with this reparations talk, these reparations conversations, we should also have the conversations of valuing ourselves. Dr. Shahrazad, she's been trying to preach that for years, just valuing each other. Black men and black women valuing each other. Um, if you are um, a hateful person and you give birth to a child, you're transferring that DNA of hate into that child. So you're not creating a lovely world, you're creating a hateful world. So we have to begin to value ourselves and say, this is what I love about myself. So when you have a child, or when you are being a mentor to another child, you are able to create a lovely world because you have lovely people. And I don't mean like just, hey, we got all rainbows and everything is all good, but it's got to be better than what we have now. And so we want to create more educated people. We want to create more economically sound individuals in our community, so we can have a community full of greatness. We lost that. We lost that, brother, when we allowed the first European to hit the seashores in Africa, to hit the seashores here in America, to hit the seashores over there in South America. We were everywhere. And if we had intrinsic value in each other before, but when we let that foreigner in, we didn't fully understand him. And we don't fully understand them now, which is why they're always 40 and 80 years ahead of us. We're living to survive. They've already planned out their fourth grandchildren's survival. So first thing we have to do is value ourselves. We have to understand that first and foremost our history. Excuse me. We have to understand our history. We have to once you understand your history, you will begin to know who you are. Once you know who you are, now you're on the road to recovery, because now you're on the road to loving yourself. Now I can place that love within that brother that's selling CMOS, or that brother that's selling alkaline water. I can place that love into him by supporting him. I ain't gotta tell him I love him. I mean, you don't gotta go to bed with the dude, but I'm just saying, just placing that love and saying, yo, man, I'm gonna support my brother or my sister. I can easily go to, I don't know, like a Burlington and purchase a white tee, but I'm gonna go to my brother over here, and he has a business in his home. He doesn't have a storefront, but I'm going to purchase something from this brother right here. I'm going to have my basketball jerseys for my basketball travel team made by a black business, someone who makes shirts and jerseys, whatever. I'm going to go there. And if they don't make it, I'm going to give them that idea. Hey, you ever thought about making basketball jerseys, man? I'll be the first one to get down with you. That's something in it right there. But we would have to do that as a whole. We would have to stop looking for the government, or start looking for the US or any other culture to tell us when we can have our holidays. We should just take our holidays. That's showing that's showing value. Like Marcus Garvey, his day should be bigger than Martin Luther King's. It should be bigger. You understand? Because we wouldn't even be talking black nationalism if it wasn't for Marcus Garvey, the way that we are now. You had other black nationalists that was around, but the way that he spoke about it, he placed a perspective on black intrinsicity when we needed it. Not that we didn't have it, but when we needed it. He came in and told us how important we are to each other, and how you need to think black, buy black, and die black, support black. He came in with that mindset. I think, therefore, we should we should take value within that brother birthday. I mean, come on. When we begin to do these things, man, um, other race, and we do it for ourselves first. Other races will recognize and will begin to start respecting us.
Facts.
They'll begin to want to start. They begin to want to start doing business with us, not trying to take over our businesses. We have to place the value in our businesses as well. For example, I say that because, for example, you have someone like Swiss Beast and Timberland, who had the Triller TV series going on with the versus battles and all of that. Um, when they got their money from it, they did what? They sold it. They sold it to an Indian. Now, this Indian doesn't have the interest of black people in mind. So therefore, something that we created, something that we would have loved to seen decades ago. Man, I wish I would have seen Tupac versus Biggie battle, on stage. I wish I would have seen Snoop versus DMX on the stage and Jadakiss versus Dipset on the stage. I wanted to see that. But now we have it, but we sold it. This is what we do. We get we get our businesses together. We make a couple of millions and we sell it to someone who's going to make trillions off of it, twice, three times as much as what we made. There's no value in that. How can I, as a black man or as a black youth who's into hip hop, be able to look at that and do the research and look at this and say, man, I respect black people. Like, we sold one of the tools that we could have used, because they were, during the pandemic and all that, we could have used this to rebuild a nation. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know some folks it's not really for, it's not really for the hip hop. You know what I'm saying? But again, we could have used just the money and the resources. We could have bought we could have created new resources and bought up land and did a whole bunch of things, but we was not thinking nationhood. It just wasn't there. But again, I'm sorry, brother, go ahead.
No, I was just saying facts.
Yeah,
Here, let me play devil's advocate real quick. Not even
yeah.
play devil's advocate, but I'll ask you this question: would you say that what Timberland and Swiss did, or how Jay-Z conducts business, would be a replication of the dominant society? Because that's all we've seen as success.
Yes. Simply because they put a couple of, like with Jay-Z, which Jay-Z. I lived in New York when they was trying to gentrify Brooklyn. Like, I remember that they literally tore down these brownstone houses that could be worth millions today. They tore these places down. Some of them they didn't tear down; they kept them around. But I remember when they began to start raising the rent. They raised the parking prices and everything. They placed parking where you had to pay parking out there. Then they raised it up higher. Then they added a heavy traffic police presence out there to regulate no cars being out there, so you can't even come around and hang around out there. You know what I'm saying? And you couldn't really, how you really going to drive to work? So a lot of people were already using the subways and all like that. But even all of that began to get expensive. But you had a big group of blacks who was fighting back, and they were saying, yo, we are not moving. We're not leaving. We're not going anywhere. We're staying right here. We know the tactic of what you are. We've seen this happen before. They used Jay-Z to say, yo, he's part owner, but they didn't tell us how much of a percentage Jay-Z owned the team. At the time, they didn't tell us that. They didn't tell black folks that in New York. So from there, black folks began to look at it like, all right, Jay-Z's the owner, all right, and we lightened up a bit. Black people began to start lightening up and allowing their homes to be bought up and the brownstones to be torn down and the stores to be relocated, their businesses to be relocated to the other side of Brooklyn or down the street or whatever. Man, they built that Brooklyn Nets arena down there. and moved all the whites and the Jews up in there, man. That's exactly what they did. You ain't gonna find black people living around that area. And that area right there is worth billions. And that area used to be an all black owned area, an all black community type area. You know what I'm saying? So they pulled a number on us by just pulling out. They did what they normally do. They show us one Negro and say, look, even he's a part of the plan. He's a part of what we're trying to accomplish. But they don't tell us what they're really trying to accomplish. And so we fall for it thinking that, okay, because this guy, he looks like us, he's one of us. He's a rapper like me. I'm a rapper and my cousin's a rapper and he's one of us. Jay-Z is us. We fall for it. But they didn't tell us that Jay-Z owns, I think, less than 5% of the team. He didn't own that much. There's a Russian dude that owned most of the team. So, I mean, that's definitely operating in the interest of race, of white supremacy, of white rage, of white racism. It's operating in their favor. And at the end, it hurt us. So again, short-term effect, they got us to move out and to quiet down and simmer down to go back to sleep by giving us a Negro. Long-term effect, it messed up our community when we could have had one. Brooklyn was ours. We could have had that.
Yeah, that's great, man.
You know what I'm saying? So I definitely believe that.
You dropping facts today. Hey, man. Like I said, I appreciate you taking the time out to answer these questions. Like I said, man, we're gonna be doing this once, probably twice a week, because I felt like this is what needs to be out there. These type of talks and these type of conversations needs to be out there. I really do appreciate it. I know it's a lot later on your side of the end, so that's why I'll be trying to like get it in and get as much as I can.
Bro.
Yeah, because I don't want. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Cool. Okay. Then we'll. Okay. All right. No problem. Then I got one more last. This is my last question.
Yes.
It's my last question. What do you think it's going to take for foundational Black Americans, Native Blacks, all of us to be on the same page and come together to get the reparations? Because and the reason why I'm gonna keep it in context. I'm gonna give you some context. You notice it's a lot of Black people out.
Ask that question again, bro. Ask that question again because you broke up.
Okay, what do you think it's going to take for Black folk, Native Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, to be in alignment with each other for the reparations? Because you notice you start to see a lot of Black people speak out against it, as if, and they keep using the terms, "Oh, I don't want a handout," and they're getting praises from the dominant society because that's basically going against your people. So, what do you think is going to take for foundational Black Americans or Native Blacks to get on the same page and be in alignment with each other so we can come together and get the reparations?
Yeah, first and foremost, we have to think of ourselves as a nation. That's got to be the first thing. A Black nation. And those folks who, if they don't want a hand, if they're looking at reparations as a handout, then they can take their handout and give it to another Black who already has reparations, or they can donate their reparations. Right, or they can donate their reparations towards the building of a Black school. They can also be exiled from our community. I think we got to get into the business of exiling folks. Back in it's centuries ago, that was one of the worst feelings, the worst type of lifestyle that you can have when you were exiled from your clan or from your tribe, from your nation. If you were exiled from there, you were a loner. and nobody else would take you in because you've been exiled. I think we have to get back into the business of exiling these black folks who begin to start talking up against reparations. Reparations is not a handout. Reparations is repairing what was damaged, repairing or repaying what was never been paid. We got folks and ancestors who was driven back into sharecropping, and they were never paid. They were paid. They were supposed to at least by minimum been paid 1 penny. I know that's nothing, but
Facts.
they were paid. They weren't even paid their 1 penny. They were told that they were paid. They signed the contract and they were never paid. And our ancestors died working on the books. This is what folks don't understand. So when they say we don't need reparations or we are not for it, it's just a handout. It is not just a handout. If I get arrested while I am on the clock at the job, when I'm proven innocent, I sue the city not only for pain and suffering, but for all the time that was lost. So therefore, I'm not suing for $1 million for pain and suffering. I'm suing for $7 million. You know, that's the add up and everything. You know, I'm suing for way, way more. So our ancestors died working on the plantations. And their children died working on the plantations. And now here we are here in America in 2022. So they're going to say we don't need the reparations or that's a handout? What handout is that? We were promised so much by this country, by the government in this country, and they never delivered because they never planned to do anything for black people. They never planned that. That was never part of the plan. The people who did plan to do things for black people, or at least just a little bit, they got either exiled or vetoed or murdered. You know what I'm saying? So listen, man, when it all comes down to it, those folks can stay out the picture. They don't have to be in our community. They're not one of us then. You know
That's a
what I'm saying?
fact.
They're not one of us. You have to you cannot be against reparations and be black at the same time. You cannot, I mean, by choice of nature, yes, but just stand on the same code that everybody else is on that's fighting for reparations. You can't be a part of that. You cannot. That it just absolutely makes no sense, man. And we can't allow our ancestors' work to be in vain. So we have to think of ourselves as a black nation first. Once we begin to think of ourselves as a black nation, we can start acting. Now we have to start putting these things into action. You know, there's a bunch of black businesses and black people who are willing to teach black history, like, or just teach history, period, or teach mathematics from a black perspective. You know, teaching language arts and all that from a black perspective. Like there are people who are ready and willing, and a lot of folks are already doing it. You have a lot of folks who are already have black owned businesses made by black, for blacks, to the blacks, but we're scattered like shattered pieces. So when we operate as a black nation, that'll bring us back together. Now we can place all of our businesses and ideas and schools together, and we all have to look at the standpoint of liberation. We can't go and ask for liberation. We have to take it. I also think that our backup plan should be to take the liberation in case they don't. They say tomorrow. They say, "Yo, nah, we're not doing reparations. That's it. We're not going to do it." Well, our backup plan should have been our first plan, which is to build our own nation and boycott everything and everybody that's not black. and begin to start creating our own. Now that'd be kind of hard, especially like, when it comes time for getting our food and all that. But we can create black-owned groceries. It'll start off slow because the money will still be going to whoever is supplying us. But once we gain control over that supplier, we good. You know what I'm saying? So this is why I don't think that the native-born Africans or the Afro-Caribbeans should be so much against reparations or be so fast to talk up against reparations, because this can possibly help them out too. If they gain control of their seaports and everything, we gain control of our ports, then we can conduct business properly. They can have their nation where they are, we can have our nation where we are, and we can be back on top of the world. You know what I'm saying? But when folks want to when they want to get out of line and they want to begin to start speaking against what our ancestors worked hard for, what they've bled for, they've dropped blood on the ground that we walk on. We just don't know it because the whites have built highways over the roads, or they had highways built, I should say, over the roads in which our ancestors dropped blood on. They had highways and everything built. So we would have to band together here, right here in America, and we can do it because we're spread from east to west, from north to south, and we can do it. We spend all of our money within their community. What would happen the day or the week when we don't do it? They'd crash, man. They wouldn't know what to do. The world would end for them. You know what I'm saying? So what I look at it, man, is Black nation first. We have to look at ourselves as a Black nation. And I think folks are beginning to do this. They're beginning to think this way, but now the actions is just, I see it's just too far away, because we still see the whites as their grass being greener or their ice being colder. We haven't gotten to that point to where we can say, yo, listen, I'm hungry today. I know that there's a Black restaurant that's 7 miles away, and there's also a Chinese restaurant that's downstairs around the corner. Instead of going to the Chinese restaurant, in which I can spend less and waste less time getting to, I'm going to go 7 miles down the street, down the road, to this Black-owned business. And I'm going to buy this Black-owned restaurant. I'm going to buy my food from there. We have to get to that level to where we're willing to do anything to sacrifice our dollars for into a Black business. We have everything, man. We have everything that every other race group wants. We have everything, man. We have the entertainment, we have the education, we have the religion the religion that people practice. We have all of that sound, but we just use it in the wrong direction. We don't use it towards us, brother. So we have to, again, I can't stress it enough. We have to start thinking in the mindset of Black nation, which means, yo, if it ain't Black, I'm not supporting it. Even though I know it may be fun and all of that, it may make me, laugh. It's entertaining. I know that it's convenient for me just to get to this area. But if it ain't Black, I'm not messing with it. It's got to be Black. When we get to that level, then we're going to be all right. The level of willing just to sacrifice. We have to be able to do that, man. I can't stress it enough. Black nation, thinking in that terms and operating in that power after we've thought about what we are, who we truly are. Black nation, man.
Man, hey, great answer, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate you taking the time out, man, to answer these questions, to get on this Twitter space. I'm gonna be uploading this to the YouTube. Hey, man, we're gonna have to do this again, man. Probably this time next week. And we're gonna try to get this in once a week, man. I know it was a live last week. I know you're busy, but this time next week, man, let's get it in. All right, my brother?
Yes, indeed, man. I'm always around, brother. I'm always
All right,
around.
then. I
Great
appreciate
question.
it, man. Hey, man, you have a good night, man, and I'll let you soon about getting us another one going. All right.
Yes, indeed. Shout out to everybody who watches No, I Don't Know television. Shout out to everybody who watch, man. Your views
Hey,
is going up, brother. Your views is going up, and I'm proud of that, yo. More people is
hey,
listening.
and you know what's so funny, man? Like it ain't that I'm, I really want it to be organic, man, because we're gonna talk about it on the next one, man. I like that the channel. It's not that I want the channel to grow. I just want it to be organic. I want to know the people that's subscribing, that's listening. I don't want to
Yeah.
just have a whole bunch of people on there because that's easy to get followers, and then you don't even know these people. There's no connection there. Then that's more like a job. I want it to be where I know David from No Compromise and Erica and Sean and all them. I like that because that's more personable and it ain't no clickbait. So man, I appreciate it,
Yes.
man. Everybody need to go check out No Compromise, man. That's a great podcast, man. Hey man, I'm gonna holler at you soon so we can get cracking on this again. All right, my brother?
Yes, indeed. Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, man. Yo, one more thing with that. And we could probably talk about it another time too. When I brought up the example of being arrested on the job, that's an example from my life experience.
Facts.
You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
I knew you were saying that. I knew that's what happened.
Yes, I've been falsely accused 2 times and went to prison 2 times. Lost custody of my children, all of that. But we'll talk about it, brother. I know exactly how white supremacy look. You know what I'm saying?
Man, oh
And I
no, we
plead the
definitely got to
blood.
get into that. We got to get
Yes.
into that. I'm glad, man. Yeah, next week, man. We need to get into that. And you know what we gonna name it? And remember this name: a deeper look into white supremacy.
Yes.
For real.
Yes, indeed.
All right, my brother. Hey, keep those thoughts. Don't share them because we gonna get it in next week about that, man. We gonna talk about that next week. All right, my brother.
No doubt. I got you, brother.